Parker, a highly skilled commando and military investigator, was deep into an anti-terrorist mission in Syria. Her team had been tracking militia movements when suddenly, she found herself in the midst of an ambush. A barrage of rockets rained down on her military vehicle, forcing her into action. As the truck took a direct hit, it swerved violently, crashing onto the desert floor. The terrorists, believing they had neutralized their target, approached cautiously. But Parker was far from defeated. With nothing but a small knife and years of combat training, she swiftly eliminated the militants one by one, moving with precision and deadly skill. From a distance, her sniper team provided backup, taking out the remaining threats. With the mission successfully completed, Parker received a call that shook her more than any battlefield encounter ever had. It was from her ex-boyfriend, Jesse, now the sheriff of her hometown, Creation. His voice was grave as he delivered the news. Her father, Harry, had died in a mine collapse. The next morning, Parker flew back home, leaving behind the dust and danger of war to face an even more personal battle. As soon as Parker arrived in Creation, she made her way to Jesse's office. They hadn't spoken in years, and though their past was complicated, she knew she needed answers. Jesse explained that based on Harry's recent messages, talking about missing his daughter and struggling with loneliness, he believed the death was a suicide. But Parker knew her father. He wasn't the type to give up on life. No matter how difficult things got, something wasn't right. Jesse took her to the family pub that she had now inherited. As she stepped inside, memories of her father overwhelmed her. Every photo, every old bottle behind the bar, every familiar scent reminded her of what she had lost. It was hard to take in, but Parker wasn't one to crumble. That night, as she tried to rest, a strange noise outside the pub caught her attention. Peering through the window, she spotted a masked man lurking near the entrance. Instincts kicking in, she moved quietly down the stairs, grabbing her knife. With a swift, well-planned strike, she pinned the intruder down, only to realize it was her childhood friend, Mike. Mike, a local explorer and reptile enthusiast, had come to check on his pet lizard that lived near the mine. During their conversation, he revealed something alarming. He was the one who had found Harry's body. Even more unsettling, he mentioned that Harry had been spending an unusual amount of time at the mine before his death. Determined to investigate, Parker and Mike headed to the mine the next morning. At the entrance, she noticed something strange: newly installed security cameras. Her military instincts told her this wasn't just an accident site. Someone had been monitoring the area. As she examined the rubble, she noticed the way the rocks had fallen. It wasn't natural, it looked deliberate. Then, she found the evidence that confirmed her suspicions. A fragment of a grenade. Harry hadn't been careless. Someone had set off an explosion, causing the collapse. Back at the pub, Parker needed a drink to process it all. That's when she ran into Elvis, Jesse's younger brother and the town troublemaker. Their conversation was tense, as it always had been. Parker never trusted Elvis, and tonight was no different. Later, as she and Mike were leaving the pub, Parker noticed something odd: a van filled with weapons. She watched as a group of men entered the vehicle, and without hesitation, she decided to follow them. The trail led them to a convenience store, where the men began a robbery. Parker didn't hesitate. Moving like a shadow, she slipped inside and took down each robber with swift, calculated strikes. When the last one fell, something caught her eye. One of the thieves was wearing a watch she recognized. It had belonged to Frank, one of her father's oldest friends. Parker tracked down Frank and returned the watch. He confirmed that the robbers had taken it from him at gunpoint. Parker knew she was getting closer to something much bigger than a simple mine accident. The next morning, a massive explosion rocked the town. Parker raced toward the mine and spotted Elvis and his gang firing RPGs for fun. How had they gotten their hands on such high-powered weaponry? She reached out to her comrade, Spider, a skilled hacker, and sent him a link to access the mine's security footage. What he uncovered sent chills down her spine. Elvis had been dealing illegal arms, and there was evidence linking him to the explosion that killed Harry. Determined to get more information, Parker visited Georgia, Mike's mother, who knew much about the town's underground dealings. She confirmed Parker's suspicions. Elvis had been selling AKs, and someone powerful was helping him. That night, Parker received an update from Spider. Elvis was hosting a secret meeting at his house. Parker wasted no time sneaking in. She barely made it inside when bullets started flying. A client had fired a machine gun inside the house. Dodging the chaos, Parker discovered the shocking truth. Elvis was supplying weapons to Ghost, one of the most dangerous domestic terrorists in America. This was more than a small-town crime ring. This was an arms trafficking operation with national security implications. Later that evening, Jesse invited Parker for dinner. introducing her to his father, Ezekiel, a candidate for the Senate. The conversation felt forced, and Parker quickly realized that Ezekiel had an agenda. He wanted to use her to appeal to voters. As the night went on, old feelings surfaced and Parker and Jesse ended up sleeping together, but her mind never stopped racing. In the dead of night, she snuck out, took Jesse's key card, and broke into the police station. There she retrieved her father's case files, and then she did something she hadn't allowed herself to do since she returned home. She visited his body. As she stood over him, the weight of everything hit her. He had been murdered and she was going to find out why. The next day, Parker stood at her father's funeral, saying goodbye to the man who had raised her, the only family she had left. Her heart burned with grief, but also with determination. This wasn't over. As the town gathered to pay their respects, Senator Swank, a powerful politician, approached her. He too had an interest in Parker. He wanted to manipulate her into supporting his campaign. Parker hesitated, still unsure of what to believe, when a text message from Spider changed everything. "Elvis is at the cave," it read. Without a second thought, she left the party and rushed to the mine. When she arrived, her worst fears were confirmed. Men were hauling weapons out of her father's cave. Staying hidden, she took out a blade and punctured the truck's tire. Moments later, she confronted Elvis. Before he could pull his gun, she overpowered him, demanding answers. Their fight was brutal, but it was interrupted when one of his men set her house on fire. Forced to abandon Elvis, she turned to face a new attacker. The struggle was intense, and she fell from a great height. Miraculously, she landed safely and shook off the pain. Spotting Elvis trying to escape in the damaged truck, she ran to him and struck him hard in the face, refusing to let him go. Before long, Jesse arrived, arresting Parker for attacking his brother and dragging her to the station. At the station, the truth unraveled. Ezekiel Swan and his sons were behind the entire illegal gun smuggling operation. Parker was certain they had also murdered her father. Jesse, hoping to silence her, attempted to bribe her, but she refused. Instead, she revealed she had evidence, CCTV footage from the mine. She called her lawyer, Luis Torres, who immediately headed to the cave to gather the necessary documents to prove her claims. But Jesse had other plans. He followed Luis and ambushed him, ordered to kill him before he could expose the truth. Meanwhile, Parker found herself in even deeper trouble. Ezekiel and his sons planned to torture her into giving up the security footage. While bound in handcuffs, Parker discreetly worked to unlock them with a small device. When Ezekiel forced her to call her contact, she pretended to agree. On the phone with Spider, she screamed as if she were being tortured, hoping he would understand her warning. Summoning her strength, Parker turned the tables. She disarmed Elvis and locked him in a cell before shooting Ezekiel in the shoulder. The battle was far from over, but Parker had won the first war. As she dragged him outside, another officer interfered, allowing Ezekiel to escape. Determined not to let him get away, Parker pursued him. However, her injuries slowed her down and she eventually lost control while driving, crashing near a farm. A nearby farmer rushed to her aid. Back at the station, Jesse used Parker's phone to text Spider, pretending to be her. "I'm fine, I don't need help," he wrote, successfully keeping Spider from intervening. Meanwhile, Elvis and his men searched for Parker, eventually reaching Mike's house. Mike and his mother played it cool, insisting they hadn't seen her. After searching the rooms and finding nothing, the gang left. Little did they know, Parker was hidden in an underground basement, slowly recovering under Mike's care. Jesse and his brother faced new pressure. They were behind schedule delivering weapons to a dangerous terrorist known as Ghost. Parker, waking up after 3 days under anesthesia, learned that Mike had a hidden talent for agriculture. As she pieced things together, she prepared for war against the Swan family. Georgia claimed she had no weapons, but an old trust fund linked to her father's estate provided her with all the firepower she needed. Her father's old friend, Frank, also stepped in, supplying grenades, firearms, and a long, deadly blade. While Parker prepared for battle, Ezekiel was dealing with his own nightmare. He had spent the smuggling money on his election campaign, leaving him unable to supply Ghost with RPGs. Enraged, Ghost kidnapped Ezekiel's sons. Parker saw her opportunity. She infiltrated the Swan property, silently eliminating a guard before throwing his body into the pool. Then, she confronted Ezekiel. At first, he denied any connection to her father's murder, but Parker's threats forced him to confess. The real shock came when Parker discovered the ultimate betrayal. Harry, her father, had known about the Swan family's gun smuggling, but it was Jesse who had killed him. Jesse had shot him in the back, and in his dying moments, Harry had accidentally pulled the trigger on the explosives in the mine, causing the deadly blast. Mike warned Parker about the dangers of facing Ghost, but she refused to back down. She knew the tunnels better than anyone, and had no other option. As she prepared for battle, Ghost's gang arrived at the cave, taking matters into their own hands. Spider, unaware of the trap, showed up, asking about Parker. The criminals pretended she was inside, but their real plan was to kill him. Before they could, Parker set off a series of explosions, creating chaos. As Spider fought to defend himself, the gang overpowered him and dragged him into the cave. Determined to save him, Parker sneaked through the tunnels, discovering a stockpile of RPGs. With a swift attack, she freed Spider and turned her attention to their final goal, blowing up the illegal munitions warehouse. Just as she launched an RPG, a sniper shot at her. The explosion shook the entire cave, causing rocks to collapse. Dazed, Parker realized she was injured. Before she could recover, Ghost appeared. The two fought brutally, but Parker emerged victorious, killing him in hand-to-hand combat. Suddenly, Elvis shot at her from behind. Despite her wounds, she defeated him too, using her unique combat skills. She finished him off, ensuring he wouldn't get back up. Mike and her friends arrived just in time to help her dig Spider out from beneath the rubble. Thankfully, he was alive. But Parker wasn't done yet. She had one last target. Jesse had escaped, hiding in an underground tunnel leading to a military ammunition base. Despite the risks of civilians entering the restricted area, Parker infiltrated the armory, pretending to be a wounded civilian. When a soldier left to call for help, she resumed her hunt. Finding Jesse, she ambushed him, demanding to know why he betrayed her father. Jesse, overwhelmed with guilt, revealed the truth. Harry had cared more about him than his own father ever had, but it was too late for regrets. Desperate, Jesse pulled out a grenade, removing the pin. Parker tried to stop him, pleading with him to let it go. But Jesse, consumed by his past mistakes, refused. In his final moment of despair, he took his own life. With her mission complete, Parker returned home, rebuilding her family's bar, and considering rejoining the military. Spider showed her a video, one she wasn't ready to see before. It was footage of her father's murder. However, she chose not to watch it, knowing the past couldn't be changed. Instead, Spider played a different video, a recording of Parker's childhood with her father, filled with laughter and love. As she sat there, lost in the memories, Mike called her via video chat. Their conversation revealed that he had taken over managing the family bar. Parker, finally finding some peace, promised to be there for the grand reopening. The battle was over, but Parker's story was far from finished. And your entertainment is far from finished too, my friend, because I prepared more stories for you. Just click on the videos on the right, drop a like and subscribe for future recaps. And now, grab your popcorn, enjoy yourself, and see you soon, my friend.